Good Friday afternoon, and thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Lauren Lemanchek. Happening right now, storms are pushing through Minnesota and the metro, and some of them could be severe. You may hear a few rumbles of thunder and see some lightning, but nothing extremes expected. The rain is only expected to last a few more hours. Our weather team will take a closer look at the forecast in just a little bit. Developing right now, air traffic is slowly getting back to normal after a massive outage delayed thousands of flights. Right now, the FAA is investigating exactly what caused the outage that prompted a 2-hour ground stop, including at MSP. Take a look at the flight radar thinning out over the upper Midwest until there were barely any planes in the airspace. We spoke to an aviation consultant who says airlines have invested in systems to help resolve issues like this, adding that all things considered, normal flights resumed fairly quickly.
Anything made by the hand of man can break, and occasionally it will. It's how fast you recover from it, and it looks like in this case they recovered pretty good.
According to the FAA website, the agency is halfway through a $12 billion project aiming to replace outdated systems, including telecommunications equipment. Right now at MSP, we're seeing 5 cancellations and 1 delay. The U.S. economy lost 23,000 jobs in July. That's according to new numbers from the Labor Department. And that's a troubling sign, as economists predicted that more than 80,000 jobs would be added to the market. Despite losing jobs, the unemployment rate is down to 4.1%. Workers' wages falling below expectations as well, with growth of 0.1%. Today, the father accused of killing his son, Manny Collins, is in court for his pretrial hearing. Jordan Collins Sr. was charged with second-degree murder last July after officials found Manny's remains in an Elk River landfill. Collins Sr. is currently being held at the Anoka County Jail on a $2 million bond. He will be representing himself at the hearing. His trial is scheduled for September 8th. New this afternoon, we're learning more about a deadly mass shooting in Thailand carried out by a 14-year-old. NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us with the details.
At least 7 people are dead and more than 30 injured after a gunman, just 14 years old, killed his grandparents in the home he shared with them and then opened fire at his nearby high school. The shooting happened in the morning outside of Bangkok. Video on social media shows students inside a classroom huddled under a desk. One student told Reuters that at first he thought somebody had set off firecrackers because there were bangs followed by quiet and then more bangs. Police say that the gunman fired at least 26 shots. They also confirmed that the 5 victims at the school were all staff and that the teenager turned the gun on himself. They say they found multiple rounds of ammunition beside him. The handgun he used had been registered to his grandfather, who was a former government school teacher. Authorities aren't saying how or why it was that he was able to get access to it. Police have seized computers and other electronic devices from his home and say that he had been recently viewing websites related to mass shootings. And the country's prime minister, who visited the site, told media that there is mounting evidence that the teenager planned this attack. It's triggering a real debate around tighter gun control and stricter gun laws within Thailand, which has one of the highest civilian gun ownership rates in all of Southeast Asia. And there have been a series of high-profile mass shootings in recent years. Among the people who were injured at the school, at least 9 are said to be in critical condition, as police now piece together how and why it is that a gunman who was barely a teenager was able to carry out this attack. Janice Mackey-Frayer, NBC News, London.
In less than 1 week, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey will deliver this year's budget address. And according to him, the city's facing a big problem, a $30 million budget gap. And a big part of that is police overtime. For some context, the city budgeted just $2.3 million for police overtime this year, but they're estimated to exceed that budget by nearly $23 million. Unplanned emergencies like the Annunciation shooting and Operation Metro Surge did contribute to that, but the mayor says staffing levels are a bigger factor. The city lost about 40% of its officers after the murder of George Floyd in 2020, and all those vacancies led to savings on the overall MPD budget that canceled out a spike in overtime. But in the past year, the mayor says police applications are up 200%, and new hires have erased those savings. With that in mind, he's now vowing that next year's budget will be more realistic about overtime costs.
I believe it was $2.5 million or so that was allocated for overtime. was never a realistic figure. It wasn't even in the ballpark of what would be realistic. And so we've run calculations to determine what is necessary. We've also found ways to gain efficiencies.
Mayor Fry says he believes they can slightly reduce overtime spending based on how they prioritize shifts with the officers that they've now been able to add. But based on how much this was undercounted, it seems clear he's planning to call for a bigger police budget overall. We'll learn more details at Wednesday's address. Developing now, President Trump is taking another shot at one of his second-term campaign promises, birthright citizenship. He signed a pair of executive orders targeting birthright citizenship and so-called birth tourism. One executive order makes children born to people classified as, quote, alien enemies ineligible for birthright citizenship. Alien enemies are members of foreign terrorist organizations and people who lobby and act on behalf of foreign governments. The other executive order bans birth tourism. However, U.S. law already bans people from obtaining a visa for the primary purpose of giving birth in the U.S. And earlier this year, the Supreme Court struck down Trump's first attempt at stopping birthright citizenship. Legal experts say that will likely happen again.
And so one thing we know for sure, this will be challenged in the courts, and Trump's first attempt to redefine birthright citizenship failed. This is a narrower attempt, but still fairly aggressive, and wouldn't surprise me at all if it ends up in the Supreme Court again.
A Minnesota judge says there is probable cause to believe Mike Lindell violated state law when he handed out free pillows in a parade. It happened at the 4th of July parade in Delano. State law says candidates can't give out anything of monetary value to try and influence a vote. Today's ruling doesn't mean the judge found Lindell broke the law, but from here it will go to a panel of 3 administrative law judges. Lindell previously told Kare his team checked the rules before the parade and says he believes there were no violations. Right now, dozens of northeastern Minnesota businesses and nonprofits are asking for economic support again for devastating wildfires in and around the BWCA. In a letter to Governor Walz and state lawmakers, the organizations are pleading for a special session, saying the fires are disrupting their livelihoods and they need help now. If a special session is not called, the organizers ask lawmakers to prioritize an assistance package as soon as they reconvene in January. Governor Walz indicated a special session is unlikely. Hennepin County Sheriff Dawana Witt says the Trump administration is threatening criminal charges against her for the county's policy of not working with ICE. Witt called it an intimidation tactic, but says she won't back down. Danny Spiewak has more from the sheriff and the federal government's response.
Sheriff Witt says she's gotten 17 letters since the start of July from Homeland Security demanding that they increase cooperation with ICE. We also learned that Cook County in Illinois received similar letters. It's just the latest clash between local officials and the Trump administration in the fallout of Operation Metro Surge. During Operation Metro Surge, Border Czar Tom Homan frequently said that ICE wouldn't have to be so aggressive if local counties would just let immigration agents into their jails.
More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement.
In Hennepin County, though, Sheriff Dawana Witt refused to change her practice of not cooperating with ICE and won a court victory last month when a federal judge ruled that local counties don't have any obligation to work with federal immigration agents.
I was not one of the sheriffs that changed my policies or procedures, and I have been very vocal about that.
Since the start of July, though, Witt says the Trump administration has sent her 17 subpoenas, like this one, demanding the county give ICE more access to inmates in the county jail, including some that Witt says aren't even in their custody anymore. In the letter, Homeland Security told Witt that failure to cooperate may constitute tampering with a witness, a felony charge that Witt interprets as a threat to arrest her.
I truly don't know what to expect. I don't understand why you would put this in writing if you're not going to act on it. So, I'll take it day by day and see what comes of it.
In a statement to Kare 11, Homeland Security said this isn't news and that the Trump administration used these subpoenas during Trump's first term. They added, in the president's second term, we're continuing these efforts as sanctuary politicians refuse to hand over the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens. Non-cooperative jurisdictions have a choice: stop harboring criminal illegal aliens and releasing them into their communities, or work with ICE to make America safe again.
I don't get why they're doing this. They know very well that I am following the law. Minnesota laws.
The current policy in Hennepin County is to not hold somebody past their regular release date in the Hennepin County Jail based on immigration status alone, unless there is a signed warrant from a judge. In Minneapolis, I'm Danny Spiewak, Kare 11 News.
Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.